Callie, what if I said to you, there was a way to elevate cities based on the idea of connecting its citizens?
Well, I would say that sounds amazing. And that also sounds a little difficult because we know there are so many factors that go into creating a thriving place and city.
Yes, and what if there was a huge motivator to move somewhere based on levels of joy?
And what if that's an even bigger factor than we even realize? That's what our guest is here to talk about today. Paul Kalbfleisch. He is the co-author of the book, The Joy Experiments. Welcome, Paul.
Welcome, Paul.
Oh, thank you for having me. I look forward to this conversation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, we found you by way of your book. I think Monica was sitting at a conference and The Joy Experiment was brought
mentioned
up in a presentation. Which, side note, I am obsessed with the cover art of this book. It's such a great coffee table. But before we get to the Joy Experiments, what is Paul's background? I know there's some BlackBerry in the experience of use. So let's hear about that.
Most of my career had been spent in the world of marketing, managing and creating brands that played a role in society, played a role in popular culture. And the one that I talk about the most is 10 years at Research Emotion, creating and managing the BlackBerry brand globally. Spent a lot of time figuring out how to place the product into culture as a form of marketing and as a form of influencing how people used it, and to learn from people how they used it and why it was so near and dear to everybody. And so I spent a lot of time looking at life, looking at society, trying to figure out why things happen the way they do, why certain cities behave in a certain fashion, and why other cities behave differently. That once that part of my career was over, I was asked to work with the area, the surrounding community where BlackBerry was created, which is Waterloo region up in Canada, to figure out how to make that community more appealing to the world-class talent that it needed for the innovation economy that it was in, which then got me involved in how to shape cities to make them more appealing. At first, it was about how to make it more appealing to world-class talent. And I was working with the developer, Scott Higgins, who's my co-author of the book. And as we started doing different projects to achieve that, we stumbled into COVID. And all of a sudden we realized we weren't just doing this for economic prosperity. We were also doing it for societal and social prosperity. The need to find ways to bring people together, the need to acknowledge that society isn't the cohesive thing that it once was for a number of reasons. And a lot of the infrastructure that used to bring us together no longer exists. And we have to start finding new ways of bringing people together. And ultimately that falls on cities. We used to talk about, trickle down economics. And I think we're in the trickle down problems. Problems trickle down.
Yeah.
And they get stuck in communities and cities to solve. So that was how I shifted into this world of what I call the societal importance of cities, urban spaces, and communities as the place where we can start to rebuild forms of connection that we so dearly need.
As you were talking, I was thinking about Smith Lane, like the actual Smith Lane, right, where I grew up, and how you were saying that the communities kind of solve the problems sometimes, right? And how, well, maybe it's the absence of what's happening today in communities, right? Mm-hmm. So I recall there was a corner store. Everybody went to this corner store. People would sit on the front porch. That's where they got a lot of their community. They met, for a Coca-Cola and some peanuts or what have you. And then as we continue for what we do, building master plan communities, we kind of insulate from that type of corner store unless we bring it in, for example. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of parallels there, and that just brought up Smith Lane and how it used to be in society or community and how we automatically connected because we had these spaces, but we began building differently and those connections started getting lost.
Yeah, I kind of grew up in a Smith Lane too. It was a area called the North Ward, and it was a heavily immigrant population, worked in factories right in the neighborhood, They didn't have to leave the neighborhood. And yes, corner stores, and there's numerous things we can look back at and say, geez, it would be great to have those things back. Nostalgia is both good and bad. It's great for inspiration. I'd like to say, hey, you know what? That thing like the corner store and what happened there, that's what we need again. But when you say, well, let's just go back to it, well, that's when nostalgia becomes a bit of a problem, because you can't go back.
Right.
We can only go forward. So we need to start trying to figure out new forms of infrastructure to do that. And what happened at the corner store? What happened was you were able to participate. When you participate in forms of play, and I don't mean just with balls, but interacting back and forth with people when you don't quite know what the outcome's going to be. You get in a conversation. That's a form of play, because you don't know what, like right now we are playing because we don't know where we didn't script this. So we're playing back and forth. We don't know what the outcome will be of this. It demands participation, and it creates a sense that I'm actually valued, because without, you know, if I don't talk, this is going to be a lousy podcast, right? So well, it might be better. That creates a sense of being valued. Being valued creates belonging. The word belonging gets tossed around a lot now, to the point where I don't think we even quite know what we mean when we say it. But it's being valued. So what we're sort of striving for, what I strive for, and I know it's what you strive for in your work, is to grasp that ability to feel like you're participating in your community. You participated in corner stores. You participated when all you did was go to the ballpark and you didn't have any rules and you just sort of made it up as you go, because you didn't have enough kids to truly play a real game, and you would figure it out. Most of that is gone, and most of it has been replaced with the technology in our phones. And as already stated, I spent 10 years of my life kind of drafting the value proposition for smartphones. And so I know what they are, and they are designed to grab your attention and to never let go of your attention. The last thing phones want you to do is to put them down and go do something and interact and play the way we've just been describing. So we have challenges to work on.
We do. So I want to go back to your value comment. Do you think anywhere in there is also something about ownership? So, you know, as your community, you feel this ownership?
Yes, I think that's a great word, and I do talk about that from time to time. And when you're participating in something where the rules aren't really defined, and you have to sort of almost create the rules of the game, where things are very open-ended, whatever you create, you do start to feel a sense of ownership for it. And when you return to that, let's say public space, where there was a sense that you're just sort of creating your own experience with others, with strangers, again, because you participated in it, you feel like I have emotional ownership for that part of my city. That's the place or community or neighborhood or village. Those are the places that somehow eventually become the place you go to when something wonderful happens. The next Winter Olympics, when Canada wins the gold medal in hockey, we will automatically rush to those places and celebrate. But they're also the places you go to when something horrible happens, and you need to feel like you're part of something more than just you yourself. And so we go to those places, and we just know those places. We just know those places. Like, we know the friends to go to when we really need them, and we know that there used to be parts of our communities that you would just go to.
I would say we almost feel those places.
Yeah, I think it's you
almost feel them.
It's a very emotional sense of belonging, and some people can say, well, emotions, you can't measure them, so they're not important. But I also think it was the great Albert Einstein that said, I'm going to get this wrong, but let me try it, that what can be measured isn't necessarily important, and what's important can't necessarily be measured, or some version of that.
Yeah.
Well, you're such a great guest for us to have on Smith Lane, Paul, because while you work on mid-sized city scales, we have such a similar philosophy from a master plan community space. You were thinking about how cities can be created to create connection. We're thinking about how communities can be created to create connection. We're creating the lifestyle programs that bring residents together. You're thinking about what programs or objects can be put in a space to bring residents together. And at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is that even if you have different political beliefs with the person next to you, or you have different algorithms on your phone, there's opportunity to connect. And as you were stating that, I wrote down a quote from your book: play gives people energy to do amazing things. They take pride in what they create and where they live. I can personally relate to this. I've never felt more motivated to do amazing things than when I was living in Atlanta and I spent a lot of my time on the Beltline. Are you familiar with the Beltline in Atlanta, Paul?
Yeah.
To me, that's like a perfect example of a space that people take ownership over. There's different ways to get involved in it. It's activated in so many ways when you're on it. You're seeing people rollerblade, run, do acro yoga. Soccer games are happening, and people, to your point, Monica, like start to set up little markets on their own, or they sign petitions to not block off the sidewalk to make it smaller because the crazy guy with the headphones is always rollerblading on the road. So that my head just went to that. And I think our goal is to create those types of things in master plan communities.
Yeah, and you still feel ownership.
Yes.
Over the Beltline.
Like I'm thinking even in a master plan community at Halloween, if you live on a cul-de-sac, families like set up a little outdoor table and they have ownership over the Halloween. And then when new people move in, they're like, well, we're a big Halloween community, you know, and you have to buy into that too, because we made those rules here and that's our standards.
Halloween is a great model, a great example, because, I will get up and give a keynote talk and I will talk about all of these things, and I will get people behavioral science as to why this is important, and I'll give examples of it, and they're still going, but that's not how we do things. They go, no, it is. We all know how to do this, and we do it. You do it, and I do it, and it's called Halloween. You mean should create some public art for my front lawn or something? You can't do that. Sure you do. People do it on Halloween every year. And it's, what if Halloween was more than one day? And what if it was themed differently? Think of the joy we all get from it. So, parents take the kids out. They can't wait to get out and follow the kids around and laugh at it. And of course, they always take something in their coffee cups that's a little sort of naughty, and they have a drink as they go. And it's just all of a sudden, because it's play.
Yes.
And we know it's fiction, and we know it's not real. We can talk to people, we can behave a certain way, we can let our real selves out, we can experiment on the fly, because it's not real. And that's the sort of the beauty of the idea of playing. We just need to be able to figure out how to do it on a more regular basis. Like when you talked about the space in Atlanta, it's probably different every day. Why? Because people do different things. Because it's really like performance art, and people do different things, which draws you back. Because it's not like, okay, well, let's go back to that space so we can look at the same thing we looked at the last time. And no, you go back, it's going to be different. And we need that rhythm of returning to parts of our communities on a regular basis. When that active sort of play starts to become part of your daily ritual, and that rhythm of a daily ritual or weekly ritual or something, that's where a sense of connection, a sense of ownership takes place. And it doesn't need to be big. It can be big. And I've been involved in creating like $1 million installations, but I've also been involved in, throwing some spun chairs, which we all have, you guys have in common with me, a great appreciation for this thing called a spun chair. Throw that in a courtyard and it costs like $2,000, and people have just as much fun as with the $1 million thing. What's the commonality? They get to make it. They get to make the game themselves, right?
That's a good example that we can talk the listener through. So for anyone listening who doesn't know what a spun chair is, Google it. But it's a circular chair that you sit your butt in, and the bottom is kind of a wide cone, and you sit in it and you can kind of like roll around,
spin a little bit,
and spin.
The real magic of it is you are convinced you're going to die.
Yes.
Because when it starts to roll,
fall
when
like
it rolls backwards, when you roll backwards, you are convinced you're going to tip over and break your neck, but you don't. And that creates a moment where everybody who is on a spun chair is exposing the fact that we're imperfect humans. And we scream, then we laugh at ourselves, and we laugh at the person who just screamed, and then we're all laughing. We're celebrating that we're not perfect. That's one hell of a beautiful thing to sort of unite around. And spun chairs don't cost a lot. And I discovered them in San Francisco in Golden Gate Park. And this was just before Gaslight District, which is sort of the epicenter of the Joy Experiments project that opened up. And we had 3 large installations that were all 3 were, close to $1 million, if not over. But I saw these things and I went, oh my God, I have to get these. And I came back and told Scott, my partner on that, I just need $10,000 for 10 of these, and we're going to toss them into the courtyard, and they remain a hit. I hear now more people coming to me and saying, oh yeah, that's the place with the chairs. You guys have the chairs. I don't know what they're called. And they talk about that. And I'm going, yeah, but what about the real? No, the chairs. I refer to that stuff as small play, and it's like small talk. It's important. It's important in making those connections, because those connections, that's what we dearly need right now. Dearly.
And I love your quote too. It makes me think of you attract what you celebrate, right? So if you're a city or a place that promotes activities like the spun chairs, or maybe you can give us some other ideas too, Paul, but if that place becomes known for that, then word travels and we start to attract more people to a place that are willing to celebrate activities like that. And then there's just all this joy permeating through the place, the city, the community.
That quote that you just gave is in reference a lot to spaces and places that tell stories, whether it's through public art, whether it's various other things where the community gets to tell its own story and celebrate its own story. That again helps makes a place feel like you belong to it, because you can sort of see the stories. And in Philadelphia, they have the Philadelphia Mural Project, where you can literally sort of travel through the city, seeing these murals, beautiful murals created by artists who had to sit down with the community and understand what their story was, and then place that up on a wall somewhere. Stories are this wonderful thing of a shared experience. And a shared experience is another way of talking about participation. There's a sociologist by a fellow named Richard Sennett who said, if you want to build a strong, resilient community, it's less about finding things in common. Like, well, we're all the same age, we're all the same income bracket, which could be rephrased as tribal sort of things. It's less about that and more about having shared experiences. We don't have much in common, but we had that experience in that space. And then an analogy I would give is, soldiers go off to war and they get thrown together as a troop, and they have nothing in common. Like, they're all from different parts of the country and different everything, but they go through an experience, and that becomes the thing that bonds them. And it bonds them because their differences actually helped them through the experience, or helped them create the experience. Storytelling is this, what's our stories? And can you find a way of embedding that into the sense of play that you have going on? That's really a powerful thing. And I have this bit of data that someone gave me just a few days ago, just to see on the power of playing together. And this is actually a really good, a value proposition for developers to understand and people creating communities. And it's from the United States Chamber of Connection. When a community plays, they have a 28% higher level of sense of social support. They have a 33% higher sense of life satisfaction. You have a 28% higher level of trust in others, a 30% sense of connection across differences, and 29% higher level of feeling political empowerment.
Wow.
There's lots of things you say, well, in our community, you get this value for this, and you get a house for this, or a community.
Yeah.
But what if you say, if we just change public spaces a bit, you could offer that experience to the people that buy, I think is pretty powerful. And I'm just trying to create a bit of a framework to get people to sort of say, instead of thinking, well, I guess all that's lost and we'll never get it back again. I guess we're stuck scrolling on our phone. We're stuck.
We should give up.
We
It's over.
give up, and we're stuck scrolling on our phones, and and it's just we'll just survive. No, we can do this, and it doesn't necessarily always cost a lot of money. It costs a shift in perspective, and then we can sort of tackle these things.
A shift in perspective. I like that.
Yeah. When you think about all of these shifts, Paul, from your perspective and what you do in mid-sized cities, who does the responsibility fall on?
Well, I could easily answer that by saying, well, it depends.
Yeah, it's a hard question.
It is. I recently held a one-day conference and we called it a play day, and it was with various levels of chief administrative officers of municipalities and some of their staff. And we talked about a play, live, work thing and how to get to it. And part of it was we ended up having a panel discussion with various leaders within the community talking about why this concept of connecting citizens to each other is really important to them. One was from the head of economic development. One was from the university. One was a business leader. One was a community foundation leader. By the time the end of that day came, most of the people on that panel said, I think we should just get together more often and just talk about this. What if we said once a month? And so what you saw happening was it was a networked governance. They acknowledge that this is not just, we don't dump this at the municipal, city hall. We don't dump it just on developers. We don't dump it on the citizens and say, you figure it out. It's a network thing. If you want to create a collaborative community, you got to do it in a collaborative fashion. Collaboration in, collaboration out. Before I sent the staff off, I said, I hate running conferences or having conferences where everybody can say, whew, I'm done and I don't have to do anything and I'm safe, but I just got a day off. No one leaves. No one's going anywhere till we have about an hour where I want you folks to list 3 things. 1, what was the thought that excited you or made you shift your perspective the most? 2, what's the low-hanging fruit? Maybe we're already doing some things, but we just don't talk about it in this language. And if we did, it would raise the importance of it. And then 3, what barriers need to be taken down in order for you to go back to that thing that excited you and you could start doing it? Tremendous feedback from them on that. And from that, we're creating a playbook. How we get started, how we can take our first steps on doing that. And I think so the answer to your question is it's multi-layered, and then ultimately it is up to citizens. It is up to taxpayers to say, rather than spending $50,000 on my backyard, outfitting it and putting up a fence, how about I only spend 30 or 20 goes to creating a community, a sense of community. And it is also up to citizens to just say, I'm just going to, I'm going to be silly for a while, and I'm going to play. I'm going to run through the fountain, and I'm going to do something I don't normally do. And, it's not the end of the world, and let's see what happens.
Yeah. It makes me think of, I've been seeing a lot on social media these days, the quote, if you want a village, you have to be a villager. So if you want to live in a place that plays a lot, you also have to play. Or if you want to lean on your neighbors to pick up your kids from school, you also have to pick up their kids from school.
It takes the entire community to create or build the community, right? We all have our part.
Has your organization done something where you feel like it penetrated through the the perceived barriers that we had, and you started to see the community behave like a village full of villagers, sort of thing?
I think so. Yes, we have. I think that for us, we're starting with 0 people in our master plan communities, right? So what we strive for is we're building that over time. So as the first residents move in, we want to welcome them in. And we have a good friend who was on the podcast, Dan, one of our first guests. He talks about the early settlers, right? And those are the first people who are moving into the community. So I think what we try to do is we embrace them and, give them a foundation to begin with, right? But then they can add their own elements. And then we do things like community groups and those things like to get them involved, starting their own groups, starting their, whether that's bunko or, a book club, walking club, that type of thing. Those are some of the easiest things that for us to be able to pull people together early.
You mentioned this idea of the first people that move in are the settlers, the early settlers. To me, back from my technology days, we would refer to those things as early adopters, the early adopters of technology. And one of the consistent things about early adopters is they just want to get in and work with you too. Like they don't care that the thing they're buying is buggy, because we want to find the bugs, and then they want to sort of send you, I think you could improve your product this way or that way. They're all in. So it'd be an interesting approach to almost play and participation for those early folks. That is even more open. Because they're the first ones to move in, and they get this sense that they're going to help, they're going to shape this place. And so it's almost like we should then consciously try to make a form of participation and play that is even more open for them to do things. I was talking to someone 2 days ago who's working on a development that is on the site of a former airport runway. And nothing's happened yet, but the runway's still there. So I think it's once or twice a year they invite people from the surrounding communities to come and play on the runway, do whatever they want on the runway. And so this is like this opportunity to get early adopters to start imagining what this community could be by goofing around on a runway. When she told me, you have a whole runway as a public space. Oh my God. That is the most amazing. I think I kept saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So many times she said, you need to come and look at it. You need to come and bring a bucket of sidewalk chalk and have some fun or something.
And by the way, something that sounds very inexpensive and easy to do, right? That's a perfect example of promoting something that doesn't have to cost $1 million.
Yes.
Yeah. And we kind of call that early activation.
Yes.
For us, like build community early. So we have a community called Newfield on the east coast of Florida, beautiful community, all traditional neighborhood design. So all alley load communities or homes. And it's very interesting that they wanted to create community first before they started building any homes or selling any homes. So the first thing we did was built a farmer's market in the middle of this land that nothing was there.
It was literally a dirt patch.
It was dirt. They created this beautiful kind of showcase garden, if you will, where our farmers planted a very small amount of like eggplant and those things. But we built a farmer's market around it. And the community came out, and it wasn't about selling a home. It was about getting everyone together, meeting the vendors, and the market's still going on today and thriving. And
now there's homes sold and people live there, and there's residents that participate.
Yeah, and I was just there yesterday, and we have these raised beds that you can be part of the farm club. And you walk through these raised beds where these families have adopted their raised bed, and they've got their name in it. And they've got tomatoes growing, and it's a beautiful sight to see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's an example of the organization you're working with to do that. And this idea to start there is they're starting at building the hardest part first, which is community, but it's also the most resilient part, the part that really, if you get that rolling, it makes selling so much easier.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
You're making it easy for people to imagine living there, but not just, well, I'll have, I know my walls will be painted this color, but I can imagine living there.
Yeah, and the homes almost come secondary to your decision.
It reminds, I'm working on a project where it's going to be a community, but it's a real strong conscious effort to build a relationship between nature and the community. In fact, the philosophy is there are already residents there. It's called nature. And they're called turtles, and they're called this. And they have a right to stay. And that's the philosophy going into it. They have a right to be there, and they will always be treated as a citizen. And so those are fighting words. Those are big words to say.
Yeah.
And I kind of had this thought that it kind of blurted out in a meeting, but I think it might take hold. And it's very much what you're talking about. You know what? Instead of doing a brochure or whatever to sell the place, why don't we build a trail that you have to walk? You have to walk through nature. And in certain spots, there will be signages saying, well, in this spot, there'll be this type of community center. And then here, and these are the types of homes. But in order to understand the homes and everything, you have to go for a hike through. You have to
experience.
You have to get on the land. You have to get on the land. Yeah. If you want a brochure, you're for now, you're out of luck. This is the only way we're doing it.
Right.
And to get people to say, I think I'm buying into this concept. And you have a better chance of ensuring that the concept remains years later.
We love that idea. We've toyed with certain things like that.
A livable brochure.
All the data says people, as much as they're addicted to their screens, are desperate for experiences too.
It's interesting you say that. I've been having a lot of conversation over like AI, for example, with my son. My son's 16, Gen Z. And we specifically had a conversation on AI this week. He thinks it's kind of, what's the word you would work? Cringy? No.
I'm blanking on the word, but cringy works.
Yeah, cringy, right? And I asked him why, and he
Chuggy.
said, Chuggy.
Have you heard that word, Paul? Chuggy.
Chuggy. No, yeah. New word.
He says it's not authentic, right? He's like, it's fake, and I don't want fake.
Yeah.
And gave me hope.
Yeah.
Right, for the next generation that they're seeing through, which AI has a place. And I'm thinking about that from a terms of like images and a brochure and all of these things and how sometimes even a brochure can feel fake. But if you're walking down that path, that trail, that's real.
Yeah.
I don't know. What was that word again?
Chuggy. It kind of means...
Which is...
It's like someone who is living in a past trend who kind of hasn't like caught up to the newer trends maybe. It can be cringy.
So thinking like millennials might be really adopting AI right now. But if we look at Gen Z, what they're doing is they're adopting it in a way that's going to give information or kind of give the background or the evidence for their hypothesis, if you will, not using it for images and those type of things that will feel a little chuggy because millennials might use it that way.
Well, I do know that the word analog gets thrown around a lot now. Like people want to go back.
Yes,
I just had a conversation about that.
I need to do analog, man. I want to go analog.
My son last night was talking about this program that he's using. He goes, I love it. It was built in 2003 and became popular in the 2010s. I love it. I mean, the kid was born in 2009, right? So there's some hope.
Oh, there absolutely is. And if I were to come back to one of the questions about examples of it, very quickly, not far from you, St. Pete's Pier, I think is one of, and if any of the viewers have not been to St. Pete's Pier, it's worth going. It is literally kind of everything I talk about in a massive scale. In a massive scale, yet it's all small play. in a massive scale. And everything about that you are faced with, you have to make choices. No path goes straight. Everything zigzagged all over the place. You're constantly, I guess maybe I'll go this way. It's constantly kind of like a choose your own adventure. Things butt up against each other. There's a part of the pier that there are steps going down to a beach on the left-hand side. And they could have just built steps, but they built bleachers to go down because they know people playing on the beach, that's performance art. That's the show, and people will sit and watch. I do a thing called Design for Joy workshops because I had a lot of people say architects, designers, landscape architects at St. Paul, we really love joy. But when we try to do it, it keeps coming out the same way as we always do. So I created workshops to help them work through that, shifting perspectives to more of an experience first. And I have, cards and cues like saying, give serendipity a chance, offer choice, then let go. Invitations to our party are better than an instruction manual. And when I was at St. Pete's Pier, I'm going like, they stole all my cues, but this was here like 5 years before I came up with the cues, but they still stole them in my mind. And, but
that's how that works. That's how that math comes out.
It's a one-stop shop example of how you can build an amazing space where I think most people think they have emotional ownership. When the citizens of St. Pete's Pier, that's where we go to play as a city. And I have my thing I do there because I don't think there's a rule in the whole place. It's amazing. It's just amazing.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Design for Joy workshops that you do and those cards. If anyone listening, a developer or a city creator, space enhancer, wants to go through the Design for Joy workshop, they can reach out to Paul. He's definitely the guy for that.
Yeah, we'd love to talk to people about that.
Yeah, you got such good ideas, Paul. People need to use you.
So, Paul, we have reached to the end of our episode, and it's the last question on our list. What is your Smith Lane?
Is that today or in the past?
I like to think of the question as what is the place that elicits the highest version of community in myself? Like, where do I experience community the most?
In my community, there is a park called Victoria Park, and it's a downtown park, but it's pretty. It's got a little lake in it, etc. But it is surrounded by its dense population, apartments. So it's surrounded by an area where there aren't really any backyards, is what I'm describing. And so there's a play area for kids, but it's surrounded. Any day you go there, even in winter, and I'm up in Canada, so winter is winter.
Yep.
There are people there, and they're playing around, and they're just picnic tables of every different kind of ethnic group you could have, and everybody's making their food, and the smells are outrageously interesting. And it's always joyful. It's always joyful. There was one day I remember, it was in the summer. It was August, so the sun was starting to set lower, quicker in August, the end of August. And the sunlight was slicing through the trees on an angle. And as kids and people and adults and everybody was running around, they were kind of slicing through these sun rays as they were through shadows in the sun and out. And I wished I had a video camera to shoot this. And all I could think of was the song Sly and the Family Stones, It's a Family Affair. And if that was just playing, it was just, and I knew that most of my friends live out in nice big houses in suburbs. And I just thought of what they're missing. And it was an example of, there was some nostalgia because I remember when I was a kid, we have family get-togethers. We would go to a park because we didn't have a place big enough. But it was happening now, and it was happening in a more unique and interesting way because diversity is bigger now or broader now. There was one family that was burning frankincense frankincense. I was raised as a Catholic, and I was an altar boy who loved having to be the one that did the shaking of the frankincense and really getting a little bit stoned on frankincense. But I'm going, do I smell frankincense here in the park? And that's what they were doing. And there was probably a reason for it, but it was just, this is outrageous. This is amazing. This is lovely. It was just the right amount of infrastructure and a lot about invitations. That one card I read where it said an invitation to the party is better than rules or a manual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The place was just created in a way that when you design things, design invitations. And don't try to design what people do. Just design the invitations and let them figure out what to do. Because no one would figure. And this thing goes on, and it's this one space just keeps going on. There's another area that's big and open for big events. And once I was there and I saw a big event going on, I'm going, the big event still is not drawing as many people as this funky area over here. And to me, it's the heartbeat of joy in the community that I live in.
What a great way to end the episode. Yes. Design the invitation, not the rules. I love it.
Love it.
Well, everybody go purchase The Joy Experiments.
It's an amazing book.
Co-author with Scott Higgins. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. We loved having you on Smith Lane.
I love what you folks are doing, and I love the conversations we have, because I feel like, even though you invite me on to talk, I come away learning stuff. So thank you very much for that.